Good evening, everyone. On the bench today, I've got something I think might be kind of interesting. A couple of original PlayStation 1s. And I think it's interesting because I'm going to go ahead and mod both of these using the PsNee Modchip. And this one over on the right, as you can see, is pretty discolored. So I'm going to try and retrobright this. I've had good success with the method that I do. Uh, Other people I've seen use some cream that they just spread on there and then use some saran wrap or plastic wrap to cover it up. I actually soak these in some clear, um, whatever it's called, the cream, the hair salon, hydro, whatever, hydrogen peroxide. There we go. I lost the name of it for a second. I've got a clear jug of liquid that I just soak it with some UV LEDs, and it's worked really well. But first, I'm not going to take these apart yet. Let's head over to the computer and I will show you how to program the Arduino mod chips. You can use an ATtiny, I think 45 or 85, or a Arduino Uno, or the variant of the Uno, which is an Amiga 328P. The 328P is a SOT28. Can't remember how many pins. That comes in a dip package as well as an SMD version. And I'm going to go with, of course, the SMD version because it's significantly smaller. Don't mind the finger. I was playing with an X-Acto knife. But we're going to go ahead and hop over to the computer and program up this one. And if you zoom in real quick, just to see, I've got it highlighted. This is the 8 megahertz at 3.3 volts. For some reason, this one that I bought online doesn't have the 3.3 volt written there, but this is the 3.3 volt. So let's head on to the computer and I'll show you how to program it. Okay, back on the computer, I'm not going to show you where to go to download this or set up PsNee, just because if you Google PsNee, it says it right here, PsNee, literally the first result is the GitHub page for this, or there's even this topic right here on psxdev.net. So downloading it, very easy and straightforward. When you have it open, you'll see some info here at the top. So for Arduinos, use the Define Arduino 328 board. For the Pro Mini or the Uno, and if you use a Micro or the Leonardo, they use the same chip, the Micro and Leonardo, because the Uno and the Pro Mini use an Atmega 328P, and then the Arduino Uno Micro and Leonardo uses a 328U. U just means USB. And then there's also ATtiny, 85, 45, and 25. You scroll down, you see I've already got the Arduino 328 board uncommented, so we're going to use this board. If you're programming a 328 board, just uncomment this one, so it should just look like this. Remove the two slashes on this line. If you're going to be programming the 32U board, which is the Micro or the Leonardo, then you want to make sure this 328 board and the ATtiny is both commented, and just uncomment this. So it look like this. And then lastly, of course, if you're going to use the ATtiny, both the Arduinos are commented out and then only have ATtiny. But I'm using the 328 board, so that's set up, easy enough. There's not much else you need to do. There's something down here for PAL. This is not a PAL system, so I'm not going to apply the patch. I'm in the USA, North America. So since I'm doing the 328 board, which is the Pro Mini at 3.3 volts and 8 megahertz, we'll come to the tools, select my board, which is the Arduino Pro, right down here. Right there, Pro or Pro Mini. And go to processor. I am at the 328P at 3.3 volts, 8 megahertz. And then we go over here to my phone, my recording device. You also need this FTDI programming chip. Really, this is just for converting the USB signals over to what can be used to program the Pro Mini. So before I connect it to USB, let's get a little close-up on here so you can see the pinouts. Hopefully it doesn't shake too much. If it does, I'm sorry. All right, cool. So you can see DTR, TX0, RX, VCC ground, all up here on the top. And if we look on the FTDI, it's a lot more difficult to see, but DTR, RX, TX, VCC, CTS, and ground. So we kind of want to make those match up in a little bit of an opposite order, because the TX pin on the FTDI needs to match the RX pin on the Pro Mini, because TX means transmit and RX means receive. So we're transmitting from FTDI, receiving on the Pro Micro, and then if we are, or Pro Mini, and then the RX pin on the FTDI needs to match up with the TX pin on the Pro Mini, because the Pro Mini will be transmitting data and the FTDI needs to receive it. So we'll match that up. DTR, TX, RX, so basically like this. I'm just going to stick it in there loosely in the holes. And one thing I like to do is, if I just hold it with 2 fingers like this, I can put good enough pressure on it to make the DuPont connectors touch really easily. And I've already done this, but you'll be able to see if it focuses. I am on the 3.3 volt jumper side, because this is 3.3 volt Pro Mini, so make sure you've got the jumper set correctly. We'll connect up the USB cable. There's the chime that says it's connected, and we'll leave it connected like this. I've actually already programmed this, but I'm just going to go through it again so you can see how to do it. Back on the computer, we go to Tools, Ports. It automatically selected COM6 for me. If you don't have the FTDI connected, it will default to COM1, and there's nothing ever on COM1. COM1 was reserved for something else for computers back in like the 80s. And if you hear any clicking and clacking in the background, my cat has decided he wants to climb up on my shelves and eat a box. So let me do this real quick and then I can get him. Up here on the top left, we will use the arrow to go upload and watch all the debug settings down here at the bottom. Using ports, blah, 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 flashing, 100% complete, verifying, and completed. So this Pro Mini is now programmed up. I've already got a second one already programmed, so all we have to do is just literally pull it off, unplug this, and this is good to go. So let's start taking apart one of these PlayStations and get this soldered in. Okay, we're set back up on the bench. Hopefully it's a little bit better of an angle for you. We're just going to start by taking this apart. So there are 6 screws right at the bottom. It's the original PlayStation. There's no warranty sticker on the original PlayStation. The PS1 that came after this does have a warranty sticker. But I've got a thick Phillips head screwdriver, so I'm going to go ahead and unscrew all these screws. And the next part's really easy too, so I'll probably just time-lapse this and the screws holding the motherboard in, because it's like 8 screws, and like it's really straightforward, so there's not much I actually need to talk about for it. So I'm just going to get this taken apart and get to the motherboard. Impressive. So I guess I'm not time lapsing this much. Oh, those came out really cleanly. You can see the connector for the power of the laser just completely ripped off. What's really interesting is it doesn't look like any solder at all came up on the feet. Let's see if I can even zoom in on this. That is fascinating. Yep, it's really close. Will you focus? Yeah, look at that. There's no solder whatsoever that ripped off on that. That crappy lead-free stuff. Oh, this will be really easy to put back on, so I'm not too worried about it. Zoom back out. Okay, yeah, so we'll get the rest of them out. It's really just 3 screws. This power connector, just pull up on this. Comes right off. The controller port ribbon cable just comes right off too. And then just going to take off these screws holding the shield on, and there's also some more screws, I think 2 right here, and 1 or 2 over here. So I'm gonna get these off real quick. didn't really mention it, but you can see it's kind of split right here. So the motherboard, the main processing and everything is over on the right side. Green board, easy enough, touch it wherever you want, you're good to go. Left side though, this is high voltage primary on like this half of the board, this half, see where the transformer is at, this half, and then kind of low voltage 7.5 volts, I think 7.5, pretty sure, over on this half. But be careful, do not touch this at all if you can help it. If you do need to pull this out for any reason, like you're fixing something on here, bad power supply or whatever, try to let it sit for a while. You can press the power button and just leave it, you know, this will slowly drain any of the energy stored in these high voltage capacitors. And then I'm just gonna turn it back off. It doesn't matter, you can leave it plugged on, turn it on if you want. Just try and drain the energy stored here. Because this high voltage side, I'm in the USA, so it's 110, 120 volts AC, but peak RMS I think is like, I can't remember, close to 200 volts? I can't remember exactly what it is. So almost 200 volts stored in this capacitor. If you touch it, it will hurt a lot. But that's easy enough. We got the motherboard out. And this just flips right up too. And then it's like stuck down and that's it. What is this? Oh, a piece of plastic just fell out. Okay, yeah, just plastic. This is the PU20 board. So we're going to figure out where the solder points are. And I'm pretty sure most of them are down here. I think they're all right down here. But I'm going to pull up a diagram and then we'll be able to look at it. So, quick cut while I transition over to... Actually, we won't do this yet. I'm going to start the shell. So, I think we'll do the bottom as well. So we are going to take this out. We're going to take all of this out. I'll submerge the entire thing. So the controller ports need to go out and the power supply needs to go out. So 2 screws on the side here, 2 screws on the AC connector in, and this metal shield probably just lifts right now. There's nothing holding it down now. Beautiful. Right. Time lapse. Oof, that's a hard day's work right there. Anyways, oh, banging and clacking. Let me take my label off here. I just do this because I keep an Excel document of all the stuff that I buy, and on my December sheet on row 4 is this one. Didn't come off cleanly, but it's no big deal because I have to wash this before I soak it. Anyway, let me see if I can just set up at the sink, and I will get my hydrogen peroxide out of the closet, as well as my tub. I don't know where I put it because I cleaned up a while ago. But I'll be right back. Quick second for you. Probably 10 or 15 minutes for me. Okay, completely different setup than I had normal. We're at my sink now. I gotta be a little bit quiet because it's 2 a.m. 2 a.m. I'm just going to wash this, throw it in the hydrogen peroxide, and go to bed, and then we'll solder it the Modchip in tomorrow. All I'm gonna do right here real quick is just scrub down the shell. Something I did off camera. I removed the power button because it looked fine, and there's a spring under here, and the hydrogen peroxide will rust metal really badly. I also removed the spring and other mechanism that hold this in place because that spring is steel and it will rust as well. I removed the mechanism for the open button. It has screws. I don't know what the screws get rusted, but I left the reset button and the open button in here because these are a little bit yellowed compared to the open button. The open button looked fine, but these are a little bit yellowed. So just gonna scrub this down real quick, try and get off some of these dirt and sticky spots. Maybe I can remove, you can't really see it too well on here. Oh, yeah, you can right there. Some scratch marks right here. See if I can scrub these out maybe, or at least trying to flatten them a little bit using a scrubber, the rough side of the sponge. So I'm gonna go ahead and just time lapse this, me cleaning this up, and then we will cut to their hydrogen peroxide stuff. video. Still trying to keep a little bit quiet. I haven't looked at bed, but we're just set up in my little spare bedroom here. I've got a bin with some UV LEDs wrapped around the edges. Clear tote, waterproof, of course. And all we're going to do, start off with, we're going to set the PS1 in there. And you can see, sticking on the side here are, it's going to sound ghetto, I have some of my silverware in here. The hydrogen peroxide solution is extremely caustic. It will cause metal to rust rapidly because it's like 3 oxygen molecules. And if you use stainless steel metal, the stainless steel will not rust. The only thing I have in stainless steel right now is silverware, and it needs to be weighted down because plastic will float. So I got some silverware in there. Just set this in here. And you can also see I'm wearing gloves. Like I just said, the hydrogen peroxide solution is extremely caustic. If you get this on your skin, it will, I don't know, it like turns it white and like kills off the top layer. But you can see it's 40 volume solution of hydrogen peroxide, and it's clear. So we'll just start unscrewing this and pouring this in. And I'm going to be extremely careful pouring this in because I don't want this to splash up, because if it gets on my clothes, it'll ruin my clothes, and I definitely don't want to get it on the little bit of exposed skin that I have. So I'm going to just pour this in. I'll probably just pour this in, pop the lid on, and then turn the LEDs on and cut to the next part. I'm going to go to sleep after this, and then when we come back the next morning, we will solder in that mod chip, and after 8 or so hours, I think this should be good. Okay, like I said, it is actually the next day for me. I left that soaking, the case soaking overnight. I checked it this morning. It looked like the lid for the disk drive kind of started to float up on one side, so it didn't really stay submerged. I threw another piece of silverware on top of it, and it's soaking now. It's coming along nicely, but as it is currently, half the lid looks really good, and half the lid still looks a little bit yellow. While that's going though, we can go ahead and get this soldered in. So I've already pulled up my diagram. We need access to pins 6, 7, 8, and 9, which are, just look at my monitor here. Data, sub-Q, SQCK, and gates. And they're all going to be, I did say before, I think it's like down here. They all are actually in this area. So what I'm thinking is we were going to hot glue this right about here. Oops. Hopefully that didn't come across on the microphone. Oh, sorry if it did. Hot glue it right about here because there are 2 points right over here. There's one right down here. Let me get a little pointer to make this easier. There's 2 points right over here. There's 1 point right here. And then there's 1 point right down here. And then we can get ground and VCC off of, I think it's this capacitor, right there. That one looks really good because the raw input is right here. At the same time, I can even use, I think this one. I think I'm gonna go with this one though. Let me just beep it out though, just to make sure. Because I know, what was it? These should be 3.3 volts. Yeah, so 3.3 volts. There's also 3.3 on this side of the capacitor, Or if we wanted to go closer to raw, which is this pin right here, I think this side, that works. I'm sure something like down here too. Does this pad work? No. This looks like capacitor. Not that. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with this this side of the capacitor right there, and then ground from literally anywhere. I might just grab it off of this capacitor up here on the top, because there's a ground pin right there next to that button. But anyways, I'm only rambling on and talking about this because I'm waiting for my hot glue gun to warm up. Talk smack all you want, hot glue is king. You know, Ben Heck uses it, and he's a professional, so why can't we? It looks, oh man, I think it's about good to go. It's been going for a few minutes, and this is a pretty nice glue gun. Let's see if I can get it all on camera. Ooh, it's a fat boy. Can't even get it all down in there because I'm zoomed in so much. I'm gonna get a little bit of glob, a pretty good glob, on the back of this because I want to make sure nothing touches the sides of these pins. And I would say right up, flatten it. That should be, ooh, smoothed out on the side a little bit too much. It's gonna get in the way of that capacitor. Let's see if I can scrape some of it back. There we go. It doesn't really matter if the glue touches the pins. It's not conductive or anything. Just gonna scrape this glue off into my trash can. That should be fine. That'd be perfect. That scraping sound you heard was whatever pins scraping against my desk. Not a big deal. All right, cool. Make sure it's still in focus. Clean off the little strings. I'm gonna turn the soldering iron on, set to 350. I'm gonna get my wrapping wire out. I've seen a bunch of people use Kynar wire. I have Kynar wire. I have plenty of Kynar wire if I really wanted to use it for something like this. This is just a piece of copper. I don't really care about using Kynar wire. I kind of like the wrapping wire. It's a little more easier to handle. So let's pull off a little bit of wrapping wire. I know you're not in frame right now while I'm doing this, but just take this nice long yellow one. That might even be enough for the entire thing. I can do it all in yellow. It's not gonna matter because it's really just for me. And that's nice and tight right there. Okay, we will go with number 6, pin 6 on the Arduino first, which is SQCK, and it should be right up here on, let me get a pointer so I can point it out better to you. It's going to be this pad right here. You can see that, yep, this pad right there. Okay, so we will fill up the hole or the via on the Arduino first, and I'm using a chiseled tip. I don't know how well it's going to come across. See if I can get that in there. That's one of my favorite tips to use on my soldering iron. And of course, I need the solder. This is some 0.8 mechanic. You can use whatever you have access to. We will solder this in first, and then reconnect the connector for the CD drive. So I'm going to just go ahead and tin these. We need 6, 7, 8, 9, ground, and raw. That should be good. I'm going to go ahead and tin. I'll just go ahead and tin all the pads that I know we'll be needing to use. So this one is for 6. And then sub Q is the, I'm just looking off my camera right now, or my monitor. And I'm in focus, yep. This one's for pin 7. Pin 8 is data, which is this one right there. I think this should be good. This is like a different point that I probed out looking for it because I tried to get closer to the Arduino. The other one I found on a diagram online was down here, which is this pin 1 of this A3821 chip. Not really sure what this is. Probably some kind of logic converter for the CD drive. There's a point right here, and then I think there's another point for data. No, that's it. On the top. There's gonna be more on the bottom. When I probed it out again, it goes to this chip over here. It's like right here in the middle, but this little via is a little bit easier to get to than one of the legs on this. Okay, and then we will tin this capacitor as well, because that's where I'm gonna get my 3.3 volts. That looks good. As well as this ground point. It's not really gonna matter, but maybe I'll just go right to the leg. Ooh. Ooh, it hit the little plastic part of that capacitor, which is not good looking. Yep, it is on there. So I'm just clean the tip off, and then kind of just do that. You just grab it and pull out, and I hit the camera. I'm so sorry. All right, easy enough. I won't do ground and VCC in the yellow wrapping wire. I somehow lost my yellow wrapping wire, the little piece that I snipped off. It probably fell to the ground, it did. I will just get some black and red and use that for ground and VCC. Just a little strip of red and even another strip of black. And we'll do this one first. This is easy enough. This is kind of why I like this better than the Kynar wire. The Kynar wire, it uses it's really heat resistant plastic wrapping that goes over the metal wire, but it's a lot harder to take off. You kind of have to use some wire strippers, whereas this I can use my nail. And if you tin this, it will kind of pull back on the plastic. So once it does that, just go ahead and trim off that excess that started to pop out. You're going to go with black, ground to ground. There we go. This is going to be really, really short, so this might be kind of interesting. And let me get this red one out of the way. I'm trying to do this all without bumping the camera. You are nice and close. We'll pull it this way, and then pull it in this way, just like that. And this wrapping wire is only 30 gauge, which you might be thinking like, oh, you got to use some thicker wire for this power and ground. But I've done several of these PsNee Modchips using this 30 gauge Kynar or 30 gauge wrapping wire, and haven't had any issues with power loss or anything like that. Although it is only 30 gauge, and it's definitely not gonna be able to do like an amp worth of current. But the Arduino is really only drawing like a couple dozen milliamps. So I know it kind of screwed up my little kink there. It's not really gonna be that big of a deal. I'm gonna rotate this so that I have an easier time, because I am right-handed. And I wanna use my tweezers to grab this wire and get it down onto ground, just like that. Straighten that up just a little bit, make it look nice and pretty. No one is ever really going to open this ever again, but you and I will know that wire is looking nice and sharp. And then we're going to come over here to 3.3 volt in, just peel a little bit back, fingers. Tin it up. Trim it back. It's about time to swap out these snips. They've gotten kind of chewed up. I'm going to rotate it again. Just like I said, I'm right-handed. I'm going to try and get it down on this capacitor. Just do it like this. Beautiful. This is going to be super short. It's a little bit more difficult, I think. Whoops. Don't want to use this. Not yet. Pull it in like that. Snip it. Snip it real good. Ooh, that snipped real good. And then one thing, this works sometimes, but you can just like hold. So sorry. You can hold your soldering iron and the solder up to the tip of this wire, and it'll start to pull back on the plastic and then reveal it. That way you don't have to worry about stripping any of it. And so it looked like it worked pretty well. I'm gonna take it and tack it on down, and that's on there. So those are the power and ground. I'm gonna get my yellow, and we're gonna start with putting you back in frame. Said we're gonna go with pin 6 first, which is SQCK, which is up here in the corner, right next to that number 27. So just pulling some back, tinning the wire. Beautiful. It pulled back just a smidge. That is a technical term. This is going to be pin 6. So the way I think I'm going to do this, because 7 is going to come down here, I think I'm going to run pin 6, or the wire, straight down and then up. So tack it on like this. Perfect. My tip was very dirty. 6 is right about there. Looks pretty good. Snip it real good, and same thing. We will just hit it with the soldering iron and solder at the same time to let that kind of just peel back, as well as tinning that wire. And again, because I'm right-handed, just turn that, keep you in frame, and some tweezers to help tack it back on to number 6. And we're good. Next is number 7. And 7 is sub Q. Strip a little bit back. Tin it. This one peeled back pretty good. So, and then that is going to be this pin right down here in the corner. I already tinned it. Just going to tack it on. That is a really good tack. And tweezers up to pin 7. Right about there. Trimmed. Let it peel back a fair amount. That's pretty good. Tweezers with the left hand and soldering iron with the right. There we go. Pretty good. And then 8 is going to be the data pin, which is, oops, this little one right here that we tinned. So I'm going to run this probably like right down here and like this. And then I'm going to need to do gate last, which is 9, which is all the way down here. So this one's probably going to run out like this and then down. I'm not going to bore you with, I've already done 2. I've shown you how to do power and ground as well. It's going to be the same concept. Let me just fast forward and get these last 2 done. And then we can connect it up and start testing. And there you have it, all of them connected up. Just looking at this last number 9 pin that I did right down here. Make sure it's not touching anything. It looks good. Looks like it's a good connection. Everything else should be good to go. Little glob of hot glue. The case is not ready, so I am not going to be able to connect it or put it all together, but we can still test it without actually putting it in the case. So let me just go ahead and clean off the desk a little bit, get this set up, and we'll see if it's reading burn games now. So be right back. Okay, not be right back, because I totally forgot about the connection, the power connector for the laser. So let's take that off the laser first. Still kind of zoomed in, which is fine. And since I am zoomed in, see if I can show you the connector again. You can kind of see, yeah, there's no solder on those pins whatsoever. And it's that connector right there. Got my little pointy thing. All these 4 feet, and then just some extra ground connections. They just broke right off. That is one of the issues with using lead-free solder. It uses mostly tin, and tin is very brittle. So I'm just going to get a little piece of whatever this is. I can't think of the name right now. Solder wick, and a little bit of flux. I'm going to trim my solder wick because it's kind of dirty already. Got a little bit of solder in there. And I've got this little tin of flux. I'm just going to dip it in there, get a little bit more into those. Soldering iron, still set at 350. It should work. And we're just going to get in here and suck up this old lead-free garbage. Looks like that's pretty good. These ones here as well. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just clean them up just enough. Beautiful. Those are fine. Connector, we'll just line this up. Actually, I'm going to clean off that flux residue because I know once I touch the soldering iron to it, it is going to get smoky. A little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol. Use whatever you got on hand. It's all good. Squeaky clean. And I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to just try and tack in one side. I put my solder up. Tack on one side. Make sure those pins, or those feet are lined up pretty good right there. Okay. So it doesn't matter. I'll just tin this pad first. Tin that. And try and get that lined up again. Let's see. I'm gonna just trying to get this to stay. There we go. That way my hand's not really getting in the way. So lining up the feet on one side. And then I'm just gonna tack this. It's on there pretty good. It's a little bit crooked. So I'm just gonna grab it, twist slightly or a lotly. And I think that's good. Now we're going to hit it again and push down all the way. Beautiful. Rotate. And try and get this other side, which should be pretty easy to do. Bring the soldering tip to the pad and the solder into the pad as well. You don't really want to try and get the solder into the tip. You can tin the tip, so that'll help disperse some of the heat once it actually gets onto the pad. And then bring the solder in. That is a nice strong connection. That just filled up the entire thing. And then we will hit these 4 feet. A little bit of a shadow because of where my light's at. Rotate a little bit more. How about that? That's good. This will be easy as well. It's slightly off, but it will work just fine. Bring it in. Good. Next one. Good. Add a little bit of solder to that, where that test point is, which is fine. This one looks like probably ground or power. That one's nice and good. A little bit too much. And then the last one. Also good. And then the point we used originally we're just going to bring the soldering tip in there and fill that one up as well. Perfect. So now that is going to be nice and strong. Okay, now I will connect this up and we will load up a game and make sure it's actually reading burn games, backed up games like it should. So be right back. All right, might look a little bit of a janky, but no worries. I'm a professional. I'm joking. I'm not a professional. What you can see right now is the power supply is connected to mains and kind of just sitting out on my desk. I'm going to try and get my hands nowhere near this. This is your warning. Do not touch that. When it's connected to the wall, do not touch that right there. Don't touch that. Now I'm going to touch this button, the power button, turn it on. But let's give it a quick test. I've got one of my favorite childhood games, a little bit of Crash Bandicoot. And yeah, like I said, there's no case right now because it's still retrobriting. But all you need to do is press down the switch that's right here in this hole, and that will make it think that the lid has been put on. So I'm going to try and just jam this Q-tip down in there, and hopefully, I haven't tested this, hopefully that just works. There we go. Okay, spinning up. And if we watch this, yep, still spinning. I'm going to take you up to the LCD or the TV. Sony Computer Entertainment. Whoops, I hit the camera. And it should switch over. Oh, disc not read. Hold on. I think the Q-tip just came up, just popped out a little bit. Hold on. Zoom back in there. Just pressing the power button again. Sony Computer Entertainment. And there we go. PlayStation licensed by SCEA, Sony Computer Entertainment America. So this should be reading the disc. This is the actual copyright protection screen. Once you've made it this far, that means that it should be working, but we'll give it a second. Make sure it actually starts loading the game. You'll see it didn't connect the controller or memory card ports. It's not really a big deal, but just for testing purposes, come on, show the Crash Bandicoot. You can do it. Universal Interactive Studios. Oh, where's my remote? I kind of want to play. I want to get that volume going. Oh well. Sad face panda. Oh, there it is. Is my volume just not on? Weird. Well, oh well. As you can see, the game is loading up just fine. And so I'd say this is successful. I am going to go check on the case, and once it is done retrobriting, I'll bring it back. We'll put everything back together. We'll call it good to go. So now let's go ahead and put this back together. It's all done retrobriting. Oh, I'm going to show you too. I'm so sorry. So I had to take apart the lid, but you can see it looks really, really good. Hopefully it's showing it on camera. To my eyes, it doesn't really look too discolored. There's a little bit of a mark right around on this side. It looks a little bit off, but I don't think that's yellowing. I think that it might have been smooth. Yeah, I can feel it too. It's smooth right there. In here. Overall, that's fine. And then here's the top part of the shell. The scratches didn't really come out like I wanted to, but it's no big deal. The buttons are phenomenal too. Let me get to, let's see. I need the spring for the open button. I don't know where it went, but here, or the power button. Here is the power button. It actually, that one looks a little bit darker. Maybe I should have left that in the retrobriting solution too, the hydrogen peroxide. But no big deal. Let's put all that to the side. We will do the power supply first. This is going to slide in and down. And then I'll get the metal shielding, because this goes down here. Probably gonna be a little bit of a glare on that. Nope, okay. And then the controller ports, I'll just grab those and put them in as well. Lines up right there. And then we'll get some screws to put these all down. Okay, well, I would say that has been successful. I'm gonna go ahead and just power this one off, and we'll get started on number 2. So let me grab that, and we'll get started. All right, so I actually just finished editing the video for this PlayStation, and I've hit about 51 minutes. I think it's a bit too long because the second one's probably about the same amount of time. I'm just going to go ahead and end it here, and I'll do another video for the second PlayStation. So stay tuned, and it'll be up probably around the same time as this one is. Take care, guys. Bye.